flanking. We've all heard the "please stop flanking, Hog," or "God damn it, there's a Hanzo on our flank, can somebody deal with it?" But do we actually know why these players are on the flank? And do we actually know why the Hog flanking is a bad choice? But at the same time, their Hanzo being on the flank was a good choice. Well, that's the subject of today's video. Welcome to Flanking 101. Or, no, things I wish I knew. TIWIK. Damn it, can't even know my own slogan. Anyways, flanking is a concept of moving behind the enemy team and moving into enemy contested space already. So kind of trying to retake space by going in from the behind and getting pop shots off and eventually getting a pick on unsuspecting enemies. And you kind of want to play in space that you're about to own but don't own currently. I'm gonna show that in the examples later, what I mean with that, but basically that if flanking is a team effort, it's not a single player game after all. So if you want to be on the flank, your team needs to match it with aggression. You can't go onto the flank without your team being aggressive, because then you're not doing your job as a flanker, then you're not splitting attention, then you're just turning attention. And that's not the same thing, because if they are focused on a frontline fight and at the same time needs to deal with a flanking Hanzo, that's much, much harder than a single Hanzo. So, with the concept of flanking away, basically move behind the enemy line while your team is matching your aggression or able to sustain the enemy's aggression without losing positions. Let's get into the examples. So to demonstrate a well done flank and when to do it, I'm going to be looking at the enemy Hanzo in this case, who he actually popped off really well during this game. We ended up having some struggles with him, and we can just look at what he does here first. He's going to be moving around, and he's just going to, before the fight even starts, he's just going to be starting taking shots at my team. But he's very uncontested here because, like, we saw him, but we can't do anything. And now he's being forced out. But that's the whole flank. That's it. Now he's back with his team. So, let's break it down. What did he actually do in this case? Whoops, too far. Well, he jumps up here and he's gonna get a quick pick on my own Hanzo, but then he's gonna be moving up around. First thing to notice. He looks up straight and he sees a big barrier. He knows there's a Mei as well, and he can see our whole team composition basically here. And against that team, he can stand and spam, but his team wins the spam war here because they have a diva. They can just eat a lot of that spam and just chill with the Rhine barrier. But I think he would have gone for this flank anyways, because it's not such a bad deal to just trade barriers. This is a choke that's very similar on both sides, because as you remember, space here, it's kind of beneficial for attackers. We have to let go, and this corner here is pretty nice because it opens nice pretty wide. There's a lot of room to position your sports really far back. However, the attackers have some high ground advantages back here and up here that they can take advantage of, because we can't stand there when they're coming down these huge line of sights. That means that they have a lot of choice to pop out from. As a support, it's very dangerous to go this way, because then we're just opening up line of sight. There's up in the balcony, in this balcony, down on the right, down main, and somebody can pop off left. So we're gonna be, if we play this correctly, the supports are gonna be moving back around this corner, because that's the safest way. We know that their Hanzo is not coming through the left there, because that's been called out in voice, where he died. So we're just gonna be moving back on the right. And enemy Hanzo knows this. So what does he do? He will either A, spam, or B, do a flank. And it's more beneficial for him to do a flank here, because his team is very brawly. If he just spams down the barrier, it will enable some kind of push, but they still have a Mei, they have a diva, they have a Rhine that just like walks on the enemy team and does not care about what barriers they're holding. So we can see here, Shatter is going to be preparing, or Hanzo is going to be preparing for a quick move around, and he's decided for it. The moment he decides for it, he goes. It's really important when you flank that you don't want the flank to take too long. especially on a hero like Hanzo. On Tracer, it's a bit more beneficial because it's your job to stand in the backline. But Hanzo is one of these gray area heroes where you can both be a spammer and a damage dealer and a flanker and support and peeler and everything at once. It's just a great all-around hero. That's why he's being played so much now. So he's going to be moving up around to the left because he's decided he's going for this flank. So if he would have been like, oh, I don't know, take a couple more shots and then move to the left and maybe decide to move back, he's going to lose his window of opportunity. Because his window of opportunity is this moment, this exact moment when the battle breaks out. Because then the blue team, my team, is going to be so focused on the front line that we will miss the flank. But if he goes in too early, we just disengage from the front line, rotate on the flank. Or if he goes in too late, the battle will be already lost because we would be playing a 4v5. And he also kind of has some confidence in his teammate to kind of block off a couple healers and single some people out. He would, again, be very useless if he pops up through here and nobody's there because we decided to move forward. That's why his team needs to put a lot of aggression down main, needs to like change the space that they control. Because right now, nobody controls this. We could equally much just move in and take over that space, and all of a sudden Hanzo's position flank is useless because we're not there. So he's gonna be needing to rotate around and around and take a wider and wider shot until he's out here to get an angle on us. Well, where's cover? This does not count as cover. I can tell you that much. When you have a Lucio running at you and Rhino, this does not count for much cover. You will have to jump up here, but then it's too late. Too long of line to run to get to cover. So he really utilizes his team's overall aggression build here to move in and push and control the space that if we controlled, he would not be able to utilize his flank. So they're going to be pushing up and they're going to be forcing us back. They're going to be taking us flank and they're going to sandwich us into the Hanzo. So we can see here how, okay, maybe not. We can see here how Hanzo pops around. And let's see exactly the positions. So we are trying to move up here. We have seen this Hanzo and they're may blocked off the healers again as predicted. And we are trying now to move up to say our Ryan. Just keep a look at what they tried to do here. So Shatter is going to be taking a wider and wider corner. Meanwhile, the Ryan is going to be committing a deep charge. Super deep, pushing back everybody, and probably calling out in voice, charging, like pin. That means has to know what's coming up. They're going to fall back. So he's going to take a little bit of a more bold peek here, which is completely okay because again, if he just falls back to the right, this sight line here will act as a line of sight breaker and cover. So you can see here, he pops up behind. He's going to take shots. But now their aggression is going to start to end. And we are going to realize that he's there. So now this is the exact same thing that I called would happen if he went in too early. But now he did not go in too early. Because if you look at the payload position, and where he is, we need to make a choice. We either chase the Hanzo, which has a one-shot potential. As a support, you don't want to be in that line of sight as a one-shot potential. You can see already how I'm going to be on this other side. I'm putting myself in harm's way just to put my tanks between me and the Hanzo. Like, I'm taking an unfavorable position because I'm opening myself up to all of these lines of sight because I would rather get hit by a Icicle than hit by the Hanzo because I can at least fade out of that. So I'm going to be fading back to the right because we just called Hanzo. And both supports are going to be rotating back on him. Might be actually a misplay here. Only Lucio needed to force him back. I'm going to send in my orb here. And the orb is going to be forcing him back a little bit more. But he forced the rotation with his flank. And again, look at the aggression of his team. This is why flankers become more and more prominent the higher up you go. Or they become more effectful the higher up you go, because you have all of a sudden this team backing your flank. You have this team matching your aggression. Because as Hanzo goes back here, his team will push up. It's gonna be like a battle between two. Like imagine if you have a pipe that's connected at the bottom, and you fill it up to water to half. Hanzo is on the right side, and his team is on the left. If Hanzo backs, aka get pressured, the water level on the left side of the pipe will increase, meaning they will increase their pressure, and vice versa. If the pressure his team is applying sinks, then the pressure Hanzo is applying is gonna rise. So it's a beautiful battle and beautiful symphony of pressures and aggression coming out of this play. So Hanzo is backing off now because he's gonna get forced back by this orb. But they trade for a Rhine. They trade for a more Mei. There's like, again, it could be argued that I should have not backed off. And looking back at this VOD review, I can tell you I should not, because I could have maybe kept this Rhine alive for a little bit more. But that's such a hard choice to make once you're in the game, because you're risking this one-shot potential. Your primal instinct kicks in, and you want to get that flanker away. You don't want him to intrude on your space. The aggression they put out is just gonna overthrow my Rhine, and we can see Hanzo is gonna be coming back onto the payload again, and whoops, he's behind his own barriers. And all of a sudden, the only thing keeping him from dealing spam and dealing a lot of damage that I said at the beginning, well, there's a barrier, so he can't do much anyways, it's gone. This is like the whole plan of the fight here is put him on the flank, force an aggression to either A or B, and then trade. Try to get a favorable trade out of this. And Hanzo really forced our hands for both supports to kind of rotate and try to force him on our own, because we didn't have anybody else to do that for us. The tanks needed to hold the lines, to hold the space. So we had to do it. And this is what happens. Just by him surely existing there, he really did force our hands. And you can see here, now he's a free sight lines, and he's just gonna shoot. He's gonna pop down the he's gonna hit a shot on our Lucio, and that's about the end of the fight there. Really, really well done flank for him. And it just goes to show how if you coordinate a flank with your team, that it kind of it increases the value of your flank. If you would have done that without the team aggression, there would have been no value, because he just would have been punished. And then when he gets punished, he goes back, and there's a big chance that by the time he gets punished, if his team didn't apply pressure, we would not have lost the Rhine. If we would have not lost the Rhine, we could have maybe traded some extra swings, we could have gotten Shatter, we could have shattered them back, and we could have just turned that fight. But because we had this kind of wave of pressure from both sides, and then a symphony, a play between pressures, they won the fight. Well done. I want to show you another example of the flanking Hanzo, and this time it's actually not Shatter Hanzo, flanking. It's actually the blue team's Hanzo, our Hanzo, Autumn, who's gonna be on the flank. And I kind of want to show this fight from a couple different perspectives before I go into depths of analyzing. So, while keeping in mind what I said last time, try to analyze this fight and see why everything is happening the way it's happening. Why are we as a team positioned the way we are? And try to answer that question. First, I'm going to let this fight play out, and then I'm going to give you my analysis on the situation. In a span of less than 40 seconds, that whole fight started. The whole fight was prepared, fought, and ended in just 40 seconds. And did you see what our Hanzo did. I had the X-ray run for a reason there, so we could maybe catch the rotation. I might have been a bit deceiving with the camera angles, but let's look at this whole fight from Atom's perspective. Again, he's gonna start preparing here. He's gonna put some spam down choke. He's gonna even pop his ult, but the moment he pops his ult, he walks away. And he's gonna be walking around. He's just gonna be spending some time trying to get a pop shot. He hits a shot there even, and now he's down behind them. Just look at this. He's popping shots. How many times did that Moira turn to try to call him away, try to force him back? Did it work? Like, I'm not gonna blame Moira for doing that. Of course, she's getting pressured. She gotta keep her head cool and kind of pressure him back. But both Hanzo and Moira on the red team tried to pressure Autumn back, and unfortunately failed in this case. And he got a pick. But that's not the value we got of this flank. That value was the front line. The value was the pressure we were able to apply while Hanzo was on the flank. So while he's up here and he's applying pressure from the back, he has already popped on the Dragon, which makes him unable to really engage while he's gone for that second of climbing. Look at our positions here. We're gonna be pushing up to kill the D.Va that just bombed. The Ryan is kind of split off behind. We're gonna charge back. We're gonna beat and call at the same time. A bit of a misplay. We should have communicated that. They're gonna trade with the same amount of ults. And now we're equal. Kind of. It's a 6v5. Now that Hanzo is engaged 5. It was 5v5 before that. And just look at it, how we play this. We're gonna be trying to move up and we're just gonna pressure. They're gonna shatter here. But where's the follow-up? Look at this Moira. She's looking back at our Hanzo instead of trying to pressure our front line with Cole to enable aggression from their front line. And now she turns back because, oh god, there's a front line to take care of. And when Hanzo, kind of like their Hanzo now, has to turn all of his attention away from the front line to move back and deal with this flanker. Again, I'm not saying they're doing the wrong thing here. I'm just saying that Autumn is doing the right thing. And that's a very big difference. Shatter and Helsing and the Moira, they are trying to play this as optimally as they can. They are trying to, at the same time, keep an eye on the front line, keep an eye on the back line, and not get killed by that flank. Remember, Hanzo has one shot. But he's just going knock knock, poof, and then peek in the corner. Knock knock, poof, peek in the corner. And he just goes in and out this, splitting the enemy team's focus. And this is what you're supposed to do as a flanker. You kind of wanna make sure that your team can survive the initial blow of the fight, that they can apply the pressure that's required for you while you set up the flank. And once you're on the flank, you're there to disrupt. As I talked in the space video, the Tracer in that video was there to reclaim space in the backline. And just look at this Autumn. Autumn is in their safe space, and he's still doing so much because now the enemy team are getting pressured from the enemy space, expected, but also from the flank. Like, they're supposed to have a free retreat, and all of a sudden the retreat is cut off by Hanzo. And as the enemy tries to round the corner here, back off, getting pushed back by our Cole, getting pushed back by our Ryan because they have to. Peekaboo! There is Hanzo! And the Cole was, half of that fight was concentrated on the flanking Hanzo instead of the front line. And that's the beauty of this flank. That's the beauty of a well done flank. These can also go horribly wrong. If Hanzo would have mistimed this, if Hanzo would have gone in without us being able to apply the correct amount of sustain, for example, if our Lucio did not have beat or I did not have coalescence, it would have been really hard to pull off this flank because the enemy team would have not been in this position. They would have instead been much further up, and they would have not been pushed back by our aggression. Instead, the Hanzo would have climbed up here, dropped down here, gotten one shot off, and then realized, oh god, they're still pushing the payload. So he has to run around, get up here, and realized, oh god, the pillar's around the corner. So he walks back, goes around, gets out here, and realizes my team is dead. Where was I that fight? But he made sure that we had enough aggression. He pressed tab, he checked the ultimate, and he relied on us applying the right amount of aggression. I'm gonna be talking aggression in another video in a bit more in depth about that. But aggression is basically just how aggressive are you? How much do you press W onto the enemy, and when do you press W onto the enemy? And he knew that once the fight breaks up, we are a brawl team, we want to be in their face, we are gonna be in their face. So he kind of played, instead of playing where we own space right now, he played around where will we own space in a couple of seconds. And that's why his flank is so perfectly positioned, because this is the space we are going to own. And you can see that he's just here. He's going to be taking a lot of damage, but this time, this is no longer dangerous space because he has a Mei with him. Our team is out here on the right. The only stretch of space they own is this, and they can't contest it because they lost 2 players. And you can see here, Mei's going to try to get some spam up, but she's not going to get much. The run is going to fall, and all of a sudden we're in a clean-up fight. And it's partially because of the beautiful flank Hanzo did that enabled us to out-sustain, out-damage, and just win the fight overall. Because many times when you are in a fight, it just feels like you are not getting enough healing, you are not getting enough damage out. It might actually not be the player's fault. It might not be them playing poorly. It might not be actually any kind of misplay. It's just that the enemy team plays better in that particular situation. And we can see here, Hanzo played better because he applied the necessary pressure from behind in space that we were about to own that turned their attention. Released pressure from the front line, enabled aggression, and just made it able for us to get a beautiful flank in. I just want to point out real quickly that the coming days I won't be uploading anything because I'm going to be gone for roughly 5 days. But after that I will probably be back to posting about 1 to 2 videos a week. Thank you guys, have a great night.